And we kick off this evening with a look at the cinema.
I'm not a complicated man. I like cinema.
It's beautiful, beautiful cinema.
Cinema history come to life.
I found my solace in the small cinema I went to every Thursday night.
I'm a professor of cinema.
I go to the cinema for the stories.
There was no competition between the cinema and seminar.
I mean, it's not within the realm of conventional cinema.
And now,
here's Payson Johnson
with a cinema review.
What is... I apologize, everyone. It is Monday, 8 EST, May 25th, 2026, and thank you for joining me for another episode of Cinematser's Reviews. I'm your host, Payson, the Cinematser Johnson, and we have an exciting week. We are going to be reviewing The Mandalorian and Grogu, the latest Star Wars film, as well as I Love Boosters. Happy Memorial Day, everyone. I hope you are all having a nice day off. If you got one, if you did have to work, I apologize, but thank you for working to hopefully help our society. I don't know what I'm saying. I say we jump right into the review tonight, starting with our first review, The Mandalorian and Grogu. This is the first Star Wars film in, I believe, 7 years now, and the 13th Star Wars film overall. If the words Mandalorian or Grogu sound familiar, it's because this movie is a continuation of the TV show that was on Disney Plus for a number of years, The Mandalorian. In this film, The Mandalorian, or his real name, Din Djarin, played by Pedro Pascal, and his little friend Grogu, played by no one. I don't know why I said played there. Are going off to essentially try to capture this warlord who is attempting to be hunted down by Colonel Ward, played by Sigourney Weaver. We learned this is the character that has been giving Din these contracts. We learned that this warlord is wanted by these Hutt twins, and these Hutt twins also want Rhoda the Hutt, voiced by Jeremy Allen White, who is Jabba the Hutt's son. Jabba the Hutt from the original Star Wars trilogy. It's that big slug guy. And wouldn't you know it, Din and Grogu set off on a journey in order to find Rhoda and to hopefully find this warlord. Kind of stumbled there through the plot just a little. I also know that Grogu is misspelled on my screen, trying to find a way to hopefully edit that. I'm going to see, yep, I can do it right here. Take off that U because it's going to bug me the entire time. There we go. Yeah, so as I said, this plot might sound a little bit shallow, and it might sound like you need to have a lot of information on the TV show. And I can apparently say that both those two things are true. I am a big Star Wars fan, specifically of the movies. I grew up watching the original trilogy a ton. Grew up watching the prequels a bunch. Liked a good amount of the sequels. Not the biggest fan of the prequels anymore. But my Star Wars love has gone up and down. But I've always enjoyed the world. I've always enjoyed the experience of watching Star Wars. So I was tepid going to this movie because it did look like we were essentially getting a TV movie in theaters, but I wanted to have my hopes up. I wanted to think that maybe Disney's big return to getting Star Wars movies back in theaters after these years of just having TV show after TV show after TV show, maybe there's a reason why they thought this story was the one to bring everything back. And after watching this film, the number one question I asked was, why was this the film that made Disney decide, no, this is what we are kicking back into theaters after 7 years since Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker? Why was this one the one they said, no, this deserves to be seen at a cinematic level? Because there is nothing cinematic about the story, or necessarily cinematic in how it looks. It is honestly the least special a Star Wars film has ever felt to me. Like, say what you will about Star Wars movies, they range in quality. For me, they can be as good as A New Hope or Empire Strikes Back, or they can be as bad as Attack of the Clones or Rise of Skywalker. But every single Star Wars movie, I truly just feel like has that like feeling of being in a galaxy far, far away, of seeing things you've never seen before, just feeling grand, just feeling special. Even a movie like Solo, which was riddled with reshoots and riddled with just behind the scenes drama, even that feels special to me. This doesn't. This just feels like I am watching a TV show I can watch on Disney Plus, blown up into on a big giant movie screen. It doesn't feel like any like bigger sense of story. It really just feels like a 2-hour version of the show that some of us have watched, some of us haven't. If you haven't watched the Mandalorian TV show, it basically gives you no real setup or no real refresher into who these characters are. It expects you to know who Din and Grogu are. It expects you to know certain side characters. It never really stops to give you like any real explanation as to as to who these characters are. Maybe gives you a little bit into Rhoda the Hutt because so much of the movie revolves around him. But other than him, you don't really get much into Sigourney Weaver's character. You don't get much into the warlord that Din and Grogu are hunting. This movie really just does feel like you are watching like episode 12 of season 4 of a TV show, and it doesn't really give you that much of a refresher. But what I will say, as someone like, I'll give some context. I watched the first 2 seasons of The Mandalorian. Never really caught up on season 3 because I just heard it sort of just isn't as good as those first 2 seasons. I don't even think the second season is as good as that first season. Even with this movie giving you very little like explanation as to who these characters are, it doesn't really give you any insight to care about these characters in any new way. Like Din is the exact same character that we meet at the beginning of the film from the ending of the movie. Like he goes on no sense of like emotional arc. Things just sort of happen around him. He reacts to characters in like one-line dialogues and just like, okay, Grogu, come, stop, please. Give me the weapon. Like there is no sense of like characters' emotions, no sense of like characters' wants in this movie. Again, Rhoda is really the only character that we understand like what he wants as a character, and that's mainly just that he doesn't want to be like his father, which you probably says like 10 times throughout the movie. Yes, that should sound as silly as it does coming from this giant slug-like creature as a Hutt. But there's no real insight into Grogu. I get Disney doesn't want to mess with the idea of Grogu. I realize I've been saying that name a lot. If you've ever seen that like baby Yoda that is used in a lot of Star Wars marketing today, that is Grogu. Technically not a baby. It's like 50 years old, but because Yoda's lived to be 900 years old, technically it's a baby. But yeah, nothing is really like nothing is really tested between Din and Grogu's relationship. It really just feels like a shallow movie in terms of the characters, and it also feels like a shallow movie in terms of everything else surrounding it. The locations, which I think is something that Star Wars is so famous for, whether it's the icy planet of Hoth, the really cool beach planet of Kashyyyk, the lava planet in Revenge of the Sith, Mustafar. It's always known for giving these really cool locations. I think you get like one planet, which is like this like criminal underworld planet, which is where Rhoda is staying on, where he does most of his gladiator fights. I believe the planet is called Shakiri. I'm so Star Wars pilled, like just these things just stick in my brain. But other than that location, there's no real like unique location we go to. And then the new characters that we are introduced to. I don't think I can tell you any of their names. We see that there is a bounty hunter that is also hunting down Rhoda alongside Din. Doesn't really have any lines of dialogue. We just know that it's an enemy of Din and Grogu. I can't tell you who either of the other 2 Hutts that want Rhoda. I remember Lord Jianu just because it's said a few times because that's the initial character that Din and Grogu are hunting down. But yeah, there's nothing really memorable about this film, which like regardless of what you think about other Star Wars movies, I can tell you like the 6th lead of Rise of Skywalker, even though I really don't like that movie, just because it makes these characters feel so like memorable and just so like omnipresent in a way. Like I said, it just makes me a question why this movie needed to be a movie in general. It feels like a number of episodes like jumbled all together. Like slight spoilers here, they catch the warlord they were trying to catch around halfway through this movie, and the next half is just an entirely new conflict. And it just makes you think like, okay, so it really does feel like, and from what I've heard, they were going to make a 4th season of The Mandalorian. Bob Iger, the current CEO of Disney, came back in and said, hey, is there any way you could give us a movie? And they said, okay, well, we were going to make a 4th season. Why don't we just make a movie? So they scrapped the entire 4th season and started working on this movie. But it doesn't feel like that. It genuinely feels like they just took like 3 or 4 episodes and jumbled them all together in order to give us a movie. Honestly, that brings me to probably my favorite part of the film, where there is this part of the movie where Din is incapacitated, so Grogu has to take care of him. There's no real like dialogue here, but really you're just following Grogu in like this like really like majestic swamp like area, just trying to find like different mushrooms, trying to find different medicines to keep Grogu healed. There are certain characters that we've seen in other Star Wars movies that show up, and specifically they're like alien race that shows up. But this is probably the most special. It felt completely different from the movie. It didn't feel like a generic action film. It felt honestly like a sci-fi Muppets movie, in a way of just watching these like little creatures just go around and trying to find like different little berries and different little medicine. I had fun at this moment. That was probably the most amount of joy I had. Grogu is like objectively a very cute character, so when you have extended scenes of him, that charm does work for like a little bit. But yeah, that was really the only scene that I really enjoyed. I will say Ludwig Göransson does the score for this show, for this movie, just like he did for the show. His score, like always, is absolutely incredible. He's the guy that did the score for Sinners. He did the score for Oppenheimer. He's done the score for Tenet. Essentially all of Ryan Coogler's films, so Black Panther. He is a great composer, and he does deliver a very good score here. But while this movie sounds great, it looks honestly kind of cheap. I looked it up. Apparently, this movie cost $150 million, which for any other movie would be very expensive, but for a Star Wars film is very cheap. Apparently, the big appeal of this movie was Jon Favreau said, if you let me make this movie, I can figure out how to make it for a very less expensive budget. And apparently what that meant was it uses a lot of green screens and sound stages. Most of the movie is shot indoors. Maybe green screen isn't the right word, but like you are just watching these characters fight on sets. Most of the action, it's okay. Like it would look cool for a TV show, but for a movie where you're just watching these zoomed in shots of these characters punching each other and shooting each other, Din, the character of Din, feels invincible until the plot essentially just says, no, you have to get hurt at this moment. Feels really silly. There is one cool action scene where Din fights like this giant alien monster. That was a little fun, but other than that, the action really isn't that memorable. It doesn't sound fun, but really, I think the thing that frustrates me most about this movie is this is the first Star Wars movie we've seen in 7 years, and it doesn't feel, it doesn't have any of that Star Wars magic. It doesn't have any of that Star Wars wonder that made us fall in love with the franchise. And it just makes you question why this was the movie they decided to put all their eggs in the basket for in order to bring it back to theaters. If I were to rate this movie on a scale of 0 to 10 videotapes, 0 being amazing, 0 being awful, 10 being amazing, I'm going to give it a very flat 5 out of 10. This is about as average and as run-of-the-mill generic of a movie as you can get. It's incredibly mediocre. It doesn't feel like you are watching a Star Wars movie. It doesn't really feel like you're watching just a cinematic movie in general. Oh my gosh, I didn't even talk about maybe my least favorite part about this movie. I'm sorry, I'm just going to take the score away and just talk about this real bad. Rhoda is just a stupid character. Like, not only is his portrayal really dumb of like we've seen the Hutts talk in this very like grunty way, Rhoda just talks in this very like humanoid like, hello, my name is Rhoda the Hutt. I've been fighting on this gladiator planet for so long. I don't want to go back to running my father's empire because I want to be my own man. You're not a man, you're a Hutt. It's just so silly. Not only that, but it just seems like they made Jeremy Allen White's voice just a little bit deeper, and his whole character philosophy is he doesn't want to be like his dad. This is such a silly, like generic character motivation to put into a Hutt-like character that looks so ridiculous. Like the idea of seeing a really muscular Jabba the Hutt is about as stupid as you can imagine. And so, yeah, that adds to my dislike of this movie. So yeah, 5 out of 10. I guess if you really want to see a Star Wars movie back in theaters, again, I don't even think it's going to give you that special feeling, because while you see characters you might like certain things you might recognize, it doesn't feel or have that magic that we've grown to love from Star Wars. So yeah, this is a very disappointing movie, and it really makes me wish that Disney would have done something a little bit better to bring Star Wars back to theaters. Hopefully next year with Star Wars TIE Fighter, they end up doing that. But I say we jump right to our second review of the night, that being I love Boosters. This is the second film from Boots Riley, who 8 years ago directed Sorry to Bother You. In between that time, they were show running their own TV show on Amazon, I'm a Virgo. This film is about a group of shoplifters called the Velvet Gang. They are famous for robbing different high-end clothing stores, specifically one that is sell the designs of, I believe her name is Christine Taylor, played by Demi Moore in this really like villainous and like nasty role. She's great in the movie. Demi Moore's character's name is Christy Smith. The Velvet Gang is led by Keke Palmer, who plays Corvette, also headed by Taylor Page and oh my gosh, what's her name? And Naomi Aki. They are trying to essentially rob these clothing stores in order to sell the clothes at a discount price in order to get some money. I don't want to say too much more because saying that much more might spoil like what this movie, just certain things that might happen in this movie, not necessarily what it's about, because that is essentially the log line of the film. But there were just some wacky and just asinine things that happen in this movie that I just don't want to like give any sort of hints of what might occur. What I will say is Boots Riley's first movie, Sorry to Bother You, I remember seeing that, just having my mind completely blown about this telemarketer that learns that if he wants to sell products, he should try to sound more white, and just where it goes from there. Really, really great satire, really great commentary there. Really funny movie, giving Lakeith Stanfield this platform to lead a movie. Really well done. So I've been waiting Boots Riley's next movie for a number of years, and what I will say is, while I don't like it as much as Sorry to Bother You, Boots Riley might truly be our weirdest filmmaker we have working today, and I absolutely love him for that. The way how he makes this movie looks, from these striking colors to all the big costumes all the characters are wearing, just down to Demi Moore's look of just having this like bleach blonde hair. She wears these big glasses. She's dressed like Lydia Tarr from Tar. Just all these little like production costume choices that Boots Riley makes. The world you are living in just feels so special. And just all the weird little choices he includes, from like the editing being really like uncomfortable and in your face. There's one moment in the movie early on where I believe it's Taylor Page and Keke Palmer are going to be robbing a store, and they're essentially like a person that's going to be distracting the security guards isn't there, and they're like, crud, how are we going to get all these clothes? And Taylor Page has this really funny way of like being able to change her appearance and change who she is as an actress just immediately. Just all these creative ideas are really cool. The entire cast is really great, but I think the people that I think shine the most are Keke Palmer as Corvette. We learned that her character is the reason why she has such a vendetta against Christy is because Christy rejected one of her clothing designs. I think Keke plays this character as a very like sort of like done with everything, like doesn't really like isn't robbing to be like the sort of Robin Hood-esque person just in order to just sort of get by, and she is like a very like sort of dead inside personality, and watching her and watching Keke Palmer add more light to that character as the movie starts to go on, when her mission becomes a little bit more like doing things for the right reasons, is really special. And yeah, Demi Moore just playing this character in the most unlikable way. Like, she has some of the best like insults I think I've ever seen in this movie. Like there's a scene where they're interviewing Christy, and they say and Christy says, "We need to stop this Velvet Gang, this group of low class urban bitches," and just all these little insults she throws. She adds so much like veracity, like just like ferocity is the right word to the character, and just makes it feel really special. Lakeith Stanfield, I don't want to spoil how Boots Riley uses this character, but he's this very like mysterious guy. He doesn't even have a name, but but just like we immediately see that Kiki Palmer's character has some sort of an attraction for her, and he clearly has an attraction towards Kiki. And where that character goes, it might be a little too weird for everything the movie does. And like by the end, I was kind of questioning why it needed to be there, but it added a lot of laughs. And maybe the most insane thing is how his character pays off. The movie does have a lot on its mind with the ideas, with the commentary. It adds by the end, you might be thinking like, okay, what is this movie trying to get at with what it's saying about like how Christie is like just in just using other people's designs for money. What the movie has to say by the end about like hey, these artists are the ones that are creating these great ideas, and it doesn't matter what a machine can try to do, it can't create what human beings can do. I think it's very, very well done, even if the way to get there isn't always the best. This movie has about like 7 or 8 ideas it really wants to tackle, and just a ton of stuff to fit into this movie. I don't think all of it works. I do think it feels a little bit messy by the end of the film, and there were certain things I think I could have cut out. But I would much rather have I saw this movie after I saw The Mandalorian Grogu, and watching this movie just made me realize, wow, I will take messy, unfocused movies like this any day over emotionally vapid or just creatively hollow movies like a lot of Hollywood films give us. Like this is very clearly created by someone who is super creative, has a lot on his mind, and is making a movie like he genuinely feels like this could be the last movie he gets the opportunity to make. And while I don't think every little thing works in this movie, while I think the ending gets so insane and so crazy to the point where I was like, okay, even I'm like getting pulled out a little. I commend Boots Riley for making something this creative and just this insane. I do wish the supporting cast would have maybe gotten a little bit more moments to shine. Naomi Aki's character, we do learn her friendship is a little bit at a like butting heads moment with Kiki Palmer's character. Doesn't get a too much doesn't get like a ton of stuff to work through there. What I will say is Will Poulter is proving himself to be one of the funnier actors working right now, and he just shows up for like bit parts. He plays the manager of one of Christy Taylor's stores, and just he plays the character in a very like monotone, like customer service-esque way, and just the way how his face is just so perfectly distinct, how he never changes his character's face, and just how he's very much like, no, so everything we do is to give the customer the best possible experience they can. Really, really enjoyable there. I love seeing Will Poulter show up in these really fun bit parts, and he's given a lot of time to a lot of moments to shine. The score by Tune Yards feels kind of repetitive at times, but I think that's kind of the point when you are watching these characters like rob different stores and rob and like find different ways to pull off their heist, and you just keep hearing a dun, 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 dun. Really, really fun there, and just how it like keeps building the energy, how it feels like you are watching a ball sort of roll down the hill, even with the score, and just how like things get more and more insane throughout the movie. That metaphor, there's a reason why I use that metaphor if you've seen the movie. As the film goes on, some more like science fiction-esque aspects are added, and I think that is actually used really, really well. Just how it handles, how it starts commenting on labor laws of these big tech companies. Just everything Bruce Riley has to say, whether it's about how big corporations use labor in different countries, or how corporations are maybe like turning their ways to AI. It genuinely kind of feels like maybe not as angry as Sorry to Bother You, because this movie does end in a little bit more of a final way, and it feels more optimistic about the future, but just a very just like in your face bombastic type of film, and I really, really appreciated it. If I were to give this movie a scale of 0 to this movie a score from 0 to 10 videotapes, I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. it maybe stumbles a bit too much for me to call it a great film, but with all the like interesting aspects of it, with all the unique ideas it brings, I have to say this is a good movie, and I really highly recommend anyone check this out if you want original films, if you want just really funny movies that have something on its mind. I Love Boosters is the movie for you, and I would recommend checking it out in a theater. But that brings an end to our show. Thank you all for watching. Remember to like this video and subscribe to the video store. It helps grow our channel a lot. Next week, I am going to be reviewing Backrooms, the horror film from that was inspired by a series of YouTube videos. I've been hearing really, really great things about that. As long as one other movie, I'm going to look at the schedule, but definitely going to be checking out 2 movies. Thank you all for joining in. I realize I've been on a bit of a 3-week break. Just certain things sort of came up. Was getting really busy with just my job being at the end of the school year. But thank you all for watching. Hope to join you hopefully a little bit more consistently in the summer going forward. And as always, watch more movies.
And the award for most vapid film review of the century goes to...
Okay, movie review. Okay, I thought it was beauty.
And he's now in cinema hell, where one day we'll all be reunited.
This is me at the Regal Cinema crying as I did through much of the film.